I think I move that we open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
I don't know. You didn't say it was going to be missing. No.
The first agenda item is 6 Moulton Avenue, continuation of public hearing for proposed regrading of your rear yard. It says here, this application is adjourned till the February 1 meeting.
Yeah, if you'd make a motion and a second and then vote to extend it to February 1st.
I so move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Number 2 on our agenda, 11 Lyman Place, public hearing for proposed subdivision for 2 new single-family houses.
Hi, my name's Christina Griffin. I'm the architect. I'm actually the architect for the exterior of the buildings. I'm working with a team and a modular company, a builder named Optimus Construction. I'm going to show you a whole presentation of the public hearing, just in case anyone wants information on the site plans. I submitted revisions to the design of the front facades, but I'm going to start with the latest drawings.
They're plats, so we can't do that.
This is our cover page, just showing the 2 houses, the latest design that we have. Our site plan indicates 2 2,710 square foot, 2-story houses. Each house has a driveway. They are mirror images, and that is because we wanted to keep the driveways apart from each other so they weren't side by side, so we would have enough green space in between, and there is also green space between the driveway and the property line. These driveways are set up so that it allows a car to enter a single car garage, and there's an outdoor parking space on the driveway. We originally had a 2-car garage. They're new homes. We thought most homes have 2-car garages, but we changed the design to be more consistent with the neighborhood because most of the garages are only single-car garages. All the setbacks meet the zoning code. We have a 16-foot 4-inch side yard setback on the driveway side, and that's because we're leaving space for a privacy buffer between that driveway and the neighboring property. And 12-foot setbacks in between the houses and the property line in the middle of the lot. All the front yards and rear yards meet the zoning code. It's an as-of-right scheme. We did move back the houses so they were in line, and we moved them back as far as we could to the rear yard setback of 25 feet so that we would have more than the 20-foot setback. The setback is 25 feet, 5 inches, because most of the houses on the street have a little more than 20 feet. These are the images or photographs of the property. There's an old house there that we're planning to take down. The images on the top are on the property, and there's a garage in the back that's also coming down. Down below, the images of houses nearby. Left is on one end of the street, and to the right are the 3 houses to the right of this property. Each house is a 2-story house, and they have different roof lines. Some have gables, different shaped gables, different slopes. But the 2 houses at the end we know probably have a similar layout and a nice big front porch. We discussed those houses, and we originally had a smaller porch, and now our new design, both houses have a nice porch across the front. This is our streetscape showing how the house, the north side of Lyman Place, most of the houses are 2 stories, or a few 1.5 stories. And then on the south side where 11 Lyman is, you see the 2 houses that have been placed in the, on the streetscape. And they're very similar in height, width, bulk to existing. It's our exterior lighting plan. We were asked to make that a separate plan, which we did. Pulled it off the site plan. So our sky exposure diagrams. The houses are shown to fit within the sky exposure plane. There's the Lot 2 house that we've changed is the one on the left with a hipped roof. Lot 1 is on the right with a gable roof. Okay, this is our latest design of the 2 houses. The one on the right is the same as the last submission. We have 9 and 12 gable roofs, combination of board and batten up in the gables with lap siding below. We have a standing seam roof at the porch, gable at the front entry, open gable. The little cathedral has very clean lines. It's sort of a transitional design, has sort of the shapes of a traditional house. All the colors are light grays, different shades of grays, cool colors. On the left, Lot 2 house, we redesigned from the original house, and it has been fine-tuned since the last design. It has hipped roofs on both the main roof at the top and the porch. Instead of a standing seam roof at the porch, we have shingle roof, fiberglass shingles. We have a different design for the front door. We have a different design for the garage, different window type. It's more of a cottage window with a 1/3, 2/3 arrangement. And this house is, and there's a little dormer at the very peak. The porch is different. We have tapered square columns on stone pillars. So the idea behind this house is that it would be cottage-like. Because there's a lot of houses in this neighborhood that has porches, single-car garages, bay windows. In fact, I'm going to show you houses I found that are very similar. This is again, I'm sorry, I keep going the wrong way here. Okay, this is our previous design for Lot 2 house. We only changed the house on the left. The previous design had a steeper roof, same height as the house on the right, and a gable roof with the bay window, thinner columns. And I'm going to flip back really quickly to our current design, just so you can see. It has a lower roof, hipped roofs. It's hopefully looking like a very different house. This is an image of some houses in a neighborhood I'm familiar with. They were built in 1907. They have mirror image layouts, but the house on the left is hipped. It's a bay window, slightly different porch. The house on the right has a gable roof. So as you can see, you can have mirrored floor plans, but different designs. And that was generally the concept for the design of the houses. This is our landscaping plan. We meet the requirement for replacing the trees that are there. We have a calculation for that. We're taking down some trees. We look very carefully at trees we have to remove. We have one in the front that we looked at. We looked at flipping this house, the Lot 2 house, to see if we could save that tree. But unfortunately, we can't get the storm drainage units to fit if we flip it, and in any case, it'll affect the root system of that tree. But we are replacing the trees. We're putting in a new oak and a maple in the front, which will be significant trees as they grow to, like 60 feet high. And these are our floor plans. So that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions for me?
Are you replacing the hedges or the plantings along the parallel sides of the house to the neighbors? So I guess on the eastern side of the property?
Let me just go to our landscaping plan.
Yeah.
I think we're replacing, we have the one on the right.
The eastern,
On the east side, we're keeping that hedge.
because one of the comments was that there are forsythias right now, is that correct? That is correct? Because there's a screening issue possibly with a neighbor, so that may want to be reconsidered.
Well, I can discuss it with our
Okay.
clients, for sure.
Mhm. And a concrete wall? Is there a concrete wall? Is there a concrete wall also somewhere on that plan, that, on the border?
I walked this property a few times. I don't recall. But maybe I missed it. Why do you ask?
It was in a letter from one of the residents that live in the area.
Is it? East?
No, not yet.
On the eastern, right? I guess we can look at it when the gentleman speaks.
You mean on this side? Yeah. I don't know. We do have a grading plan from the civil engineer, but it's a minimal amount of grading that's going on for the properties, and I'm not aware of the wall, but I can see what kind of impact this might have on it. On this side of the houses, we have a 16-foot 4-inch setback. We have a nice space that I hope will make it so that we don't have much of an impact on a wall.
Mm-hmm.
But we can look into it, of course.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? I like the fact that you pushed it back a little bit that the houses are in line now rather than juxtaposed from each other. The setbacks in the front. And I do find the second house being more attractive than the first, than the previous design.
Thank you.
I've forgotten, Christina, in one of the earlier sets, do you have the sort of context map?
I do. I brought my own laptop because I was afraid this was going to happen. This happened last time. I'm sorry, can you help me? It's not moving. It's just... Over there?
There, that's
There
it.
it is.
The previous one, right?
Yeah, hold on, this is tricky.
One thing that just strikes me in this, this application is that there are two houses being proposed. I think if there were one house, I think it might be easier to understand how it could fit into the neighborhood. I think you put two new houses together at the same time, I think it raises the concern level a lot.
I think the size of the lot is 60 by 110, so they're not even the minimum size. And it does meet all the zoning regulations.
Yeah, I think the front yard setbacks are improved. I think that design of house number two is less similar, which I certainly appreciate. So thank you for both those.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
Rob's thinking.
Yeah.
I think I said, my feelings haven't changed from what I said at the last meeting. I find them to be too similar. And I think that, as Steve said, I think it makes them feel bigger than they actually are.
In the context of the rest of the neighborhood, Rob, that's what you're
For
saying?
me, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, this is a public hearing. Should we
Well,
open?
It is a public hearing, and
We should.
I don't think you've opened the public hearing yet, and I don't think you can yet. The reason pertaining to this application and the two Castle Hill Close and 4 Castle Hill Close, these are subdivision applications, and we haven't received subdivision plats. So I think right now, you're just treating this as an AHRB application. Once a subdivision plat is received, a proposed preliminary plat, you could open the public hearing. But we don't have that yet.
oh,
So on both of those,
Didn't we
Yeah.
call for a public hearing, though, at the last?
I think we did, without realizing that they.
We keep trying.
They have not submitted a plat, subdivision plat.
okay, okay.
There are other people here who have comments, it might be helpful to hear them.
They can take comments onto the AHRB,
Yeah, as,
Oh.
with relation, right, with respect.
because that's not a public hearing.
So it's not
You
necessarily a
don't- you
public
don't
hearing,
hold-
it's just comments?
Right, you don't usually hold public hearings for AHRB, but you're certainly welcome to receive comments on these architectural drawings.
Okay.
I think we should.
Yeah, a lot of people have come here to talk about it,
A lot of
so we should
people
let
are
them.
here.
Yeah, that would be helpful to us to hear what people say. This is a public hearing, if
No,
anyone.
it's not.
It's not a public.
It's not a public, it's not a public
But
hearing.
It's a
Well, we'll
public
take-
meeting on.
small
the-
p,
on the-
small h.
Exactly.
These would be comments on the AHRB.
So anybody can be welcome to come on up and,
Architectural
One is, we're
Review Board.
Architectural and Historic Review Board, and the other is the planning. One is architecture and the way it looks, and the other is zoning.
How you
I
get-
have a question before you get started. Does that mean we have to repeat the public hearing after we get the
There's been-
subdivision
There will
plot?
be-
There's been no public hearing open yet.
Well, I meant,
But there will have to be for the subdivision, right?
correct.
Right.
Correct.
So is that plot plan in progress? I mean, is there something, as soon as you get that and submit it, then we can open the public hearing, is what we're saying.
right. I guess we weren't aware that we got to get that process going. I don't know why it wasn't brought up before, but
Yeah.
we'll definitely.
Well, I think Valerie, didn't you, in your memo, note that?
I mean, in our prior memos, we've noted that it's a preliminary, preliminary subdivision approval, which requires the plat. I think but we haven't seen one yet, and that's one of the reasons why we did email, when I sent out the memos, I noted that to the board, because I think it's something that you're gonna wanna submit as soon as possible so that you can finish up this process in terms of having all your documentation ready.
Of course. I just wasn't aware. But
Required subdivision plat, public hearing. Is that in your comments?
Well, it's part of any application, right? If you're getting subdivision approval, you need to submit a subdivision plat, and that's part of the application.
And the public hearing is required for subdivision, it's not required for AHRB.
So,
I see.
okay, so if I can make a suggestion then.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I apologize. Members of the board, my name is David Belay. I'm part of the development team for these two proposed homes. Obviously, as you can tell, we did take your comments from the last meeting into consideration. Obviously, we regrouped, took a good hard look at what we can do to try to be more amenable to distinguishing the two homes. So we put our best efforts into doing that with the home on the left. With that said, if we're not going to open the public hearing this evening, perhaps we should then get our subdivision plat submitted and incorporate those comments, and then obviously call for a public hearing and then go through all the comments.
I think it
Consistent.
probably will expedite the process if we take comments tonight, even if they're not, because we'll hear and you'll hear, we'll all hear whether people like it or don't like it and what they like about it. And one don't like about it and may give you a chance to respond. So,
Point taken. So obviously I defer to the board to make the best decision as to how to proceed. But again, we apologize because at least I wasn't aware that the subdivision plat hadn't been submitted, or at least was required at this juncture for the public hearing. Just thinking out loud is if there's any other, again, if we're going to go through the comments, then we'll obviously hear those comments, take those into consideration as well, and move from there. Thank you.
Thank you. So where are we?
We're gonna take comments under the Architectural Historic Review Board
Yeah, I know.
review.
I know.
So who would like to come up?
Would anybody like to come up and speak to this project?
Please give us your name and address when you get up. And please speak into the mic so people at home can hear.
So my name is Robert Barbera. I'm a 35-year resident of Dobbs Ferry, live at 66 Luzerne Road. I guess the first, just a couple quick questions. The houses that you showed, that you felt looked...
Excuse me, sir. You have to address the board.
yeah, you
I'm just
can't-
wondering where those houses were that were photographed and shown. That was just the kind of first thing, because I didn't recognize them from our neighborhood.
We'll find that. We'll get that for you.
All right. I'm not sure if the board received, which I sent to the Architecture Review Board and the Planning Board, a letter that I have, along with 21 signatures from the neighbors of the community that are very, very concerned about how these houses look, both in size and scope and similarity. As the neighborhood, as you mentioned, has a lot of cottages, smaller houses. I wouldn't define these over, close to 3,000 square foot houses as cottages. So it doesn't really fit in with this neighborhood that is, going on almost 100 years old as a subdivision, right? So this was the Oradell Manor subdivision. Some people have in their deeds from the original subdivision certain requirements about the zoning, so I'm not sure what's the deed on this original plot of land, but some of these deeds say that those lands cannot be subdivided, so I'm not sure if that's in their original deed or not. It also says that the housing structure needs to be 30 feet away from the street, so that's what's in the deeds. I saw on the diagram 20 feet plus some footage from, I guess, the village property, so I'm not sure if it's 30 feet from the street, but that's what's in the deeds for the Oradell Manor subdivision. So we just wanted to call your attention. I'll give this to the board, the signatures from the neighbors that are very concerned about how these houses look and the size and scope of the houses. And lastly, on the, I guess, typographic map, you could see the height of those houses, how much higher they are versus the other houses that are on Lyman on that side of the road. So it's become going to be a very standout structure that's going to look very, very different in style, design, and size versus the neighborhood. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Your Chairman, Planning Board members, I'm Sarkhan Parlak. I reside at 3 Lyman Place that shares a border with the 11 Lyman proposal itself. I've sent 2 letters to date regarding this proposal. I just wanted to kind of voice the same concerns I've raised in my letters. I do appreciate a lot of the changes that's going into making the front facades look somewhat different. But the reality is we're dealing with a structure that's got the front facade and a whole lot of back to go. And the fact that they sit side by side just makes it so much harder to visually actually distinguish them. So unless the floor plans really change, I don't necessarily think the buildings will satisfy that the properties are, or structures are ultimately different enough. And I don't really know what my rights are. And I'm just kind of, making my arguments as to, what I see and what I feel as I look into it. From the front, no, we will never get this view when looking at these properties, given the fact that they go 20, 30 feet, if not longer, further into the property to as far as they can actually go. Say they, in the previous, if I may just kind of. In this kind of visual, you can clearly see how much larger the 2 proposed structures are next to every other home. So, they might look like cottages, but they don't smell like cottages to me from where I sit. So that's just my kind of concerns as far as the size and the look and feel of the structures proposed. The other issues I have are the fact that I share a border with the 11 Lyman property. And even though it looks like 3 Lyman Place is level with Lot 2, the reality is we start level at the road, 11 Lyman goes up, my property goes down. So there's a solid, by the end, 6-7 foot difference in 5 foot difference, sorry, I don't want to exaggerate, difference that is held by a retainer wall, that cinder block, that is leaning about almost a foot and about to touch my shed. So again, I don't know what my rights are. I don't even know if this is an architectural concern, but the reality is I just want these plans to kind of address this retainer wall that's about to kind of topple my shed. There are also 2 trees that sit at that 4-foot cliff that threaten my roof, but I know as part of the plans they'll be cut down, but I'll do my best to kind of deliver a letter of my concerns to the current property owner regarding this. And then the last concern that I have is my home is 100 years old. I live with all the pains that come with a 100-year-old home. And, the foundation is 100 years old. And on very rainy days, I do have trouble in my basement with some water coming my way. So if we are to put a, 1,700 square foot footprint structure, move it only 15 feet from my border with a huge roof, where I just don't know where the stormwater is going to go. I know some of the studies and letters have been submitted, but I'm no engineer. I can't really read them to know that I am taken care of as far as the water that's going to run off this property, because there is the 4-foot drop, and then there is a slant that just hits my kind of foundational wall. So, the very last point is, if I can kind of go back to the site plan, and I'll just kind of take the mic just to kind of show. Sorry, apologies. I had it and I lost it. Here. So this is the property line that I share with 11 Lyman. This is Forsythia. it works in spring, summertime, but then right now I am just looking at the bottom of the existing property that kind of sits right here. And we're gonna now have a 20-foot, you know, 2 full-story structure looking right into my backyard with a see-through kind of hedge that I would like at least address as they've done on the other side of some more privacy. And the leaning retainer wall is actually on this side, on their side of the property from the 2 surveys I've kind of looked at that clearly put it on their side. So anyways, thank you again for offering us this forum to raise our concerns and, you know, do our civic duty, I suppose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Hello, I'm Matt Carmody. I live at 42 Luzerne Road. I've lived there since 2010. I have zoning comments, but I'll save those for public hearing, so I'll make some architectural comments today. And it's related to the similarity of the 2 proposed homes and the shape of them. There's really no other homes in the neighborhood aside from the one directly to the right at 19 Lyman Place that kind of look like, from plan view and side view, like 2 large shoe boxes like these. What's great about our neighborhood, and Christina, the architect here, helped redesign a home across the street from these, is all of the interesting shapes and corners of all the homes. They were added onto over the years. They started small, they didn't get very big, they just added bump outs for kitchens and bathrooms and sunrooms. So, you know, these are starting very big and rectangular, and from where I sit in my house, I can look out the window and see the side and back of the old house that would be knocked down. And these houses would be very monolithic and just look like the broadside of a barn to people. So there's been a lot of concentration on looking from the front, but I think more focus needs to be on the front and the side to give it some more angles and interesting looks, which is more consistent with our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Oh, we've got another person. who
no,
wants
I'm
to speak
sorry.
to this.
I turned and he went.
Hi there. My name is Daniel Burgess, 52 Luzerne Road, and just want to add a couple of comments. I wanted to thank you for your service to the village and working working to ensure compatible land use and appropriate development in the village. The house at 11 Lyman has been empty for quite some time, so I appreciate that there are plans to change that. It'll help the neighborhood. But my concern is that the new houses need to fit into the character of the neighborhood. So from my windows, I see a beautiful mature maple tree, and I understand it's going to come down. And I see from the plans that there are 2 trees supposed to go up, and it definitely looks like there are going to be more than 2 trees going to be cut down. So I think that is something to consider, so that there are like an equal amount of trees going to be planted. I appreciate the streetscape. I do, want to speak to that again. I think it'd be helpful to have a more realistic streetscape. Like Serkan mentioned, like his house right next to it is actually a lot lower. And when you at the street, this lot is like kind of the highest point of the street, and these houses are much bigger. So, the concern is that they're, really going to stand out and be, have a much bigger volume and don't fit into the neighborhood. I appreciate that the setback has been addressed. I also appreciate, Ms. Griffin, I know you do a lot of sustainable work, and I'm, curious how, how this is going to be done in these houses, considering, all the climate change and so on. So obviously there's Dobbs Ferry adopted the New York State Stretch Energy Code, so everything is going to be according to that. But I'm wondering, is there going to be more done to that? I'm wondering about gas hooks up. There might be a moratorium on that. Still in Westchester. But are people in these new houses going to be heating and cooking with fossil fuels, or looking to the future? Are there going to be solar panels? I think it's a perfect spot for solar. I'm actually, wondering from the board as well, would you consider updating the village code to be more solar friendly, like the Model Solar Energy Local Law that's published on the NYSERDA website? Finally, I would like to hear from the planning board, in relation to the vision plan for this neighborhood. In the Dobbs Ferry vision plan, it's referenced as the Knoll neighborhood. And the vision in there is to preserve the Knoll neighborhood as an attractive private place to live. The features of the neighborhood are described as top of the hill with a predominance of older houses and mature trees. Modest scale houses on shady, lightly traveled streets. Concerns in the vision plan are that until recently, mapped paper streets have led to out-of-scale infill development on wooded, topographically challenging terrain. While this doesn't, apply to this development, there's a concern that bigger houses can dramatically alter the character of the neighborhood. And so, in your opinion, does this development fit with the vision plan? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so you're aware, the Board of Trustees is responsible for the code changes. So I recommend if you have good ideas like that, you take them in front of the Board of Trustees.
Last time, right, you discussed,
Steep slope.
right? And so, I think that's going to raise it because the future and, while, more the awareness is and more people talk about it, should be
Good, thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, we can't close the public hearing because we didn't open the public hearing.
But we need to extend the public hearing.
No, you don't.
No,
You know?
Just have to
there's
be-
no public hearing
No,
yet.
It won't be
that's what I
until
mean, we can't close it.
But there was, on the calendar, it said there was a
Doesn't
public hearing.
Right, but we're not open.
But it's not.
Oh, okay, so you don't open it, you don't have to
You
extend
can
it.
always not have it, as opposed to
Okay.
having it when you
Thank
haven't noticed it.
No. We will continue at the next meeting.
All right. Thank you for
Thank
your
you for
comments.
coming.
Are there-
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Does this board, just since you heard all the comments, does this board want to give any direction to the applicant at this point in terms of the AHRB, or do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I agree with some of the comments that we heard tonight. I think the buildings, I don't know if they are just absolutely too big, or if there's something that could be done to change the massing so that they are less, as one of the people who spoke said, shoeboxy. I think it would be helpful for Christina, and I know she's done this before, to do some oblique photo simulations, looking at these buildings from the way you would see them if you're coming up the street, and, or some, a distance where you see the sides of the buildings. I think that would be something that would be helpful for everybody to see. But it is true that when you look at the site plan of the neighborhood, the buildings do look big compared to the others, and I think that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that, like I said, as we've seen before with massing, buildings can look bigger or smaller, depending on how animated their massing is. And I think if you're trying to achieve the square footage that you're trying to achieve, the buildings are going to have to be considerably more animated than they are now. That would be my direction.
Yeah.
But,
And having two of them just,
yeah, and having the fact that there are two of them cited exactly the same way kind of also inflates their presence. So I think it's a challenge.
And do we know if there are retaining walls on the property?
Well, we'll take that comment obviously into consideration. We'll take a much closer look at that retaining wall and see what the condition is and what we need to do there, if anything. But again, we appreciate Bob's comment. Again, duly noted, understand the concern. However, as we all know, when you show plans and you show renderings and so forth, the tendency to perhaps look massing on paper versus what comes out in a realistic framework on a site job is relative to what we can do.
But that's why that's why a photo reel, dimensionally accurate,
We'll certainly
3D photo simulation of the street view is actually maybe the most telling thing. Because I agree with you, it's hard to project it from a plan and elevations relative to its context. But I think if you build 3D model of the adjacent buildings and show the actual view, it would tell us a lot.
We'll certainly discuss that internally and see what we can
Yeah.
do with respect to, again, what we've done so far and the amount of effort we've put into the engineering and the studying and the design of the plans. Again, let's point out just to make it crystal clear that the setback is a deep setback here, which typically offsets the tendency for it to be massing from the street view. So we do have that, and again, we took that comment into consideration the last two visits as to where we can lay these out on the site to mitigate that massing and to mitigate what we see from the street perspective. So again, with respect to massing and size, perhaps it's not as big as all of the other homes that are, again, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old. But again, we understand that we all look at development as a ever-changing evolutionary vision of what communities should look like, neighborhoods should look like. We certainly appreciate what planning does for every municipality that we work in. We're here to look to do something that's improves and helps not only our neighbors. Obviously, we'll take into concern our neighbor that's right adjacent to us. We understand, again, screening, as all developments, all neighbors do, whether you're a developer or not. We all look to make the green space in our lots and in our homes look presentable and make them appear to not only us as either owners, sellers, buyers, home end users, that they fit within the sites in our neighboring properties. So again, we'll take a look at that comment as well. I heard the concern about drainage. Again, we've planned accordingly. We've followed code as far as engineering 100-year floods, and we'll, again, from my understanding this evening, though, we don't have any additional comments for our engineer. And if I've missed that or haven't heard that, please, let us know so we can address that now in the next turnaround. And again, I think we've done a good amount of work for this last round changes to make the houses more distinguishable between the fact that they do lay out side by side. But again, we'll look at the 3D view and see what we can do there and look at that more closely and see if there's anything else we can provide.
good.
A clarification to the neighbor about the drainage issue. My guess is this house has no stormwater management at this point, and the village requirement that you do a 100-year storm management solution should improve things in theory. Okay, it typically does. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a I'm not Anthony there, I don't do stormwater management designs, but, you know, the goal, the village goal is to make it better.
Good. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month. Okay.
Take them into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
The next item on our agenda, item 3, 2 Castle Hill Close and 4 Castle Hill Close, public hearing for proposed redraw of property line between 2 and 4 Castle Close.
As I mentioned earlier, you can't open a public hearing without the actual subdivision plat, preliminary plat having been submitted.
So are you clear about that?
Not exactly. So my name is Smitha Abraham. I live at 4 Castle Hill Close with my husband, Anil Abraham. This is Annie Barr at 2 Castle Hill Close. So we did receive, well, I guess I have 2 separate but related comments. The first is we weren't quite clear how the site plan was different from the subdivision plat. However, that said, I sent an email to the building department on December 15th asking for information on the subdivision plat or what you needed from us, but I wasn't able to get a response, and so I submitted the documents that you have. And I followed up with Sarah to say, you know, did you get everything and does that meet the requirements of what the board is asking? And she said, I think that someone or the village planner would review it and let us know by a memo sometime this week. But we didn't get anything unless we were supposed to get something that we just didn't get. So we're a little bit confused as to where we went wrong because we asked about the subdivision plat twice and we didn't get a response. So we figured what we had submitted was appropriate. And then we had the site plan, which shows the current line as well as the proposed line, which we thought shows you the parcelation of the land.
Right, so I think, first of all, in the Dobbs Ferry Code, a lot line adjustment is a re-subdivision. It requires a public hearing on a plat. You need to provide a plat. I think you need to probably engage a professional to help you. We can't do the work for you. Our role is to, when I say our, the board, the building.
What is a plat?
We can't get into that here. We can't take.
We're just trying to get clarity because.
We'll have to, you'll have to contact the building department offline.
But we did that.
And they didn't make that response.
I think you need to get a professional, a land use attorney or an engineer who's familiar with subdivisions. A subdivision is a document that gets filed with the county clerk and it establishes the lines of your property. Or if you have 2 properties, you know, the line moving.
Which is what we thought that the site plan currently does.
No. A site plan's not a subdivision map. I'm telling you what you need is a subdivision. It doesn't matter. Moving the lot line is a re-subdivision by this village code. So you need a subdivision plat, preliminary plat. Can't tell you what that is. You'll have to, you're gonna.
You have a survey from Ward Carpenter Engineers, right, with the 2 properties.
Yeah.
Call them up tomorrow, tell them you need them to make that into a subdivision plat. And it becomes a map that gets filed with Westchester County.
But we also sent you an email listing a few other items that needs to be put onto that plat, including some of the easements. And that also needs to be included on that as well. Right, but there was a couple of other things that the attorney, that we sent you over email through the building department that needs to be addressed as well.
Right, which is what like the source of the easement, which is what the documents that we submitted, which stated that it's a utility easement.
Well, if I may, when you contact Ward Carpenter, as Anthony suggested, you should advise them that you have easements on the property. And they'll need to show them on the plat. Okay, they're described in the title work that you sent.
Yes, they will also be on the plan.
Right, so that you don't, unless I'm mistaken, you don't need a site plan. you're just changing a lot line. That's a re-subdivision. You don't need a site plan, because
Right.
you're not.
Yeah, I don't think we
adding-
need a site.
You're not adding any improvements to the property. You're not
site,
changing the houses or anything. Right,
Just moving the line.
right, so you don't need a site plan.
Well, we just thought the site plan was our proposed, what Ward Carpenter, what we submitted, that Ward Carpenter with their proposed line and the current line, which does show the easement.
Right, so,
It represents what you want to do, but it's not what we call
It's not an official
plat.
document.
Plat will have signature blocks and things to be filed with the county. Ward Carpenter's very familiar with this. They'll know exactly what to do.
Okay. Okay, I mean, I just, yeah.
Sorry, Anil Abraham, I'm one of the homeowners at 4 Castle Hill Close. So the subdivision plat that we're supposed to file, that's a preliminary one that gets filed, and then if it's approved, it becomes a permanent record?
yeah, I mean, there's a preliminary and a final plat. I'm not sure.
It's the preliminary of what the final map will be that gets filed with Westchester County and everybody signs it.
Okay.
We need to see that. We need to have.
Just to clarify, if we submit that, get it from Warren Carpenter in the next week or two and submit that to you guys, then the next hearing, the next place will be a public
Then the
hearing.
board can open a public hearing, because we have the plat. We have
It doesn't need
what
to be a
your
preliminary plat
subdivision.
and then an additional.
It may be, we'll check that, we'll check that. The first thing you have to do is get a preliminary plat approval. I'm not sure in this village if you can get a waiver on the public hearing for final plat. I think you can. That's something we'll look at.
But can we call for a public hearing for the next meeting?
You
On the assumption that they,
you can't because you don't have it in front of you, so you're.
we have to literally have it in front of us to even
Yeah.
call it a meeting?
Right, and that's why we have pre-submission meetings and conferences, to get that documentation in so that you can schedule public hearings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, if we get that in, let's say, the next hearing, is that going, at that point, can you call for a hearing
It'll
in the
be
next session?
on the February 1st meeting, the board will schedule a public hearing.
If the preliminary plat meets your approval.
Well,
You're saying it's 2 sessions from now?
Correct.
The earliest that we can
correct,
possibly do this.
yes.
That's an issue for me, but we'll deal with that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand, because it's otherwise difficult to get information. So we're calling Ward Carpenter, we're asking them for a subdivision plat, and in your email, what it said is, we need a subdivision plat, only a site plan was provided. Then it says, source of the access utility easement. And then it says, it's shown on the 6-lot subdivision map from 1997. Use of the easement, what does it provide for, whose use? So we provided the information for, I believe, numbers 2 and 3, but are you saying that you want Ward Carpenter to put that information somehow on this subdivision plat?
I'm saying that typically easements are shown on plats, yes.
Right, but she's saying the source
But
of
specifically,
the
this,
source of the
what's
easement.
No, no,
asked for in the email?
They plot the easement on the subdivision plat, right? So
Right, but it's just usually-
it'll
it's
show
not
you,
some
it'll show you where this,
utility easement.
what's that?
It's labeled utility easement. It's not saying like, like, for example, in her original deed, it says you Nourishell Water Company. This is NOLA. But do we have to actually put that, like, those names on the
The Ward Carpenter will know exactly what you need to
He'll do
do.
it.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we're.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
We don't want to
Right.
kind of keep rolling down the hill.
Right.
We don't either. So,
Yeah, so.
Actually-
We're in the same page. I
Yeah.
wish we could have realized that.
yeah,
before.
I'm sorry that we didn't understand that either.
Okay, so we're calling Ward Carpenter and submitting it as soon as possible, and may, in that same thing, you said we could potentially ask for a waiver?
Once we get
On
it, then,
final, I'll look at that.
then he'll look
Okay,
into it.
thank you, thank
Are there any
you.
other things that you need from us, just to
Yeah.
clarify now?
Having a-
Sorry, I'm due March 7th, so like, this is gonna be interesting.
I'm sorry that,
Trying to get it done.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
so much for your
All
time.
right, thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry about that.
And if you have additional questions, I'm selling can on the river a little here, but you can make an appointment with the building department to sit down and go through it.
I mean, I guess, I don't know what to say to that because I email, I call.
We had Department of Public Works at our property yesterday.
Okay.
You know, so I didn't want to be overly, you know, it was the holidays and I
Yeah.
emailed and I called and I was like, okay, I'll wait.
Probably why
It can
they-
be a complicated process, so if you feel confused or you're not clear on something, you can always make a
could come
personal
in or come
appointment and
down.
sit down.
Yeah.
My apologies too. I was out for 2 weeks. I was sick with COVID, so I have hundreds of emails that I'm still going
We're all
through.
on the same page.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda, item number 4, 231 Clinton Avenue, public hearing for proposed accessory dwelling unit addition to the existing residence.
Good evening, members of the planning board. My name is Dan Panesi, here for the owner. I'm here for any questions. I'm hoping we can open and close and perhaps issue a resolution on this matter tonight.
That would be
I know a
good.
little aggressive, but hopefully we can do it.
331 Clinton Avenue.
Well, maybe just remind us what we're doing and
Sure.
then we'll
So-
do it.
The house
Sorry
up in
about that.
Clinton.
Yeah,
Clinton.
on Clinton, we had received site plan approval and building permits for a renovation and addition. And we submitted this application for an amended site plan and to approve an accessory dwelling unit at the property.
Okay.
So we had responded to the village's consultant's memo and provided the affidavits and whatnot as required by the zoning code for an accessory dwelling unit.
Good.
We want to open the public hearing.
Yeah. I move we open the public hearing. Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wish to make comments, either here or online? Apparently not. Maybe we can close the public hearing.
Anybody online? No?
All right.
All right. I move we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good?
Are there any conformance issues with this application? Okay.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Pretty, it's contained within the dwelling unit.
Yeah, it's
and
an
everything.
already, it's an addition that's already, that we approved that's already done. It's
Yeah.
in the envelope.
It's within the envelope?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
then we're done.
I think it's,
I think we're good.
I think it's fine.
So we have a resolution?
We do have a resolution. I am going to read a number of the components of the resolution, and I'll leave it up to the board to have a discussion on any of them or to make sure you're comfortable with all the conditions.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So whereas the applicant is seeking site plan to build additions on the west and east ends of the existing house and special permit approval for an accessory dwelling unit. The property is located at 231 Clinton Avenue. Whereas the board is familiar with the project site and general vicinity and has reviewed the application in accordance with Chapter 300 zoning and land use and the village code, including Section 300-39 accessory dwelling unit. Whereas the board has concluded its review and has granted the criteria and in approval in accordance with the local waterfront revitalization plan. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby finds that the proper care exists for requiring a park that be suitably located for a playground or other recreational purposes within the village, and planning board finds in accordance with section 300-52J reservation of parkland that the park cannot be suitably located on the property, requiring a payment of a fee in accordance with the master fee schedule for one additional residential unit. Be it further resolved, the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings set forth below, the application for site plan approval and special permit approval for the accessory dwelling unit is granted, subject to the following conditions. It refers to your approved plans. And then the other following conditions specifically refer to the expiration and renewal of an accessory dwelling unit in accordance with section 300-39D. It specifically says that a change in any building ownership requires a transfer of the special permit for an existing permitted accessory dwelling unit. An accessory dwelling unit shall expire automatically if a new building owner does not apply for a special permit transfer within 90 days of a change of ownership of the building. And then also in such event, the tenant of an accessory dwelling unit shall be permitted to remain up for up to the end of their current lease if the owner of the residence so consents, unless the planning board approves an additional extension of time by resolution upon receipt of a written request by the property owner for such extension. Right, those are all the conditions.
Wow.
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
First one.
And then we also have AHRB approval too.
that's
So just that, you know, if you want to just do, it's their typical AHRB resolution, but if you just want to do just a vote.
Can I ask you a question? Just, it's an academic question. Who?
My favorite.
Yeah. Who do you imagine, I'm curious because we're starting to do these, so I'm taking a sort of informal survey. Who do you think is likely to use, who do you imagine is going to, are you intend to rent it? What is your plan?
My in-laws will be moving in.
Your in-laws, are they moving in?
Yeah.
For
They're
good?
currently in
Wow,
South
you might-
Carolina, and they'll be, yeah. They'll
Wow,
be
okay.
moving in, yeah.
All right,
Lucky you.
that's great.
Yeah, well, this is not a public hearing, right? No comment. Hi, Chris.
Thank you.
Good
Good
night.
luck.
Do I have to wait for the AHRB?
Yeah, you just want to vote on the AHRB.
Oh, yeah.
It's a separate vote, right?
Yeah.
All right.
There's not much
All
here.
right. I move that we
Approve it.
approve whatever it is.
AHRB.
AHRB.
approval, right.
Okay, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, good luck.
Okay. Okay. How about 22 Irvington Street? Public hearing for proposed addition and alteration to first and second floor of existing residence.
Okay. We're almost there. Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Michael McGarvey. I am a professional engineer representing the application for 22 Irvington Street. We were here last month to discuss the issues or what the proposal is for this home. We are looking to, it's a small home, actually. There's 2 bedrooms upstairs. 2 bedrooms upstairs. We're looking to take the roof off, expand it to the limits of the first floor, as you can see on this, and put a new roof back on. That's basically meat and bones of this application. We will be doing some work in the back for a deck. We will be putting in a cul-de-sac recharger for the stormwater. We also will be putting in a, what else we put in there?
Row of hedges.
Row of hedges, that was mentioned last month. And that was pretty much it. And we do have one large tree in the rear, because we did take a tree down that was dead, that was about to fall on the house. But that's pretty much the gist of the proposals. I don't know if you want to look at the first and second floor.
We recall that you advised that we can.
Right, not worry about the
This-
sky exposure plan there, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
We got back to the regular gable. Yeah, that's basically,
That was like really almost the only,
yeah, it was the screening on the neighbors, so we're adding a row of hedges,
Over here, this is the replacement tree that's for the one that's already taken down. And yeah, those were mostly was the screening and the
And the ridge line.
cable.
I think with,
We do, we're also adding a water quality basin before the storm water goes into the cul-de-sac from the roof drains. And we got a comment from the engineer. Thank you. He wants a detail of the 18 by 18 box. So we will provide that. Hopefully that does not hold this up.
That's a minor thing that can be provided before building permit.
Hopefully that won't hold up any possible approvals we'll get tonight.
yeah.
And I can deal directly with Tony.
And I think with the tree, do they have to meet the replacement, the diameter replacement math, whatever that is,
For trees that are removed, half the diameter.
half the diameter? So have you done that?
I don't even know what the diameter was before, quite honest with you.
I know that we were required to replace the tree. I forgot, I don't recall.
There's a, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be size for size, but you have to have the equivalent
Caliber.
width.
Yeah.
The equivalent, right.
I know that was a discussion between who does the tree permits again?
Say again?
Who does the tree permit?
We do in the building department.
Yeah, I know that there was to get the tree removed, there was a discussion about a replacement in kind. Or
Up to half the diameter.
Yeah,
I mean, if that's a requirement, then they will absolutely.
but that was already
Make
part
that
of
change.
the original tree permit.
Before they get the permit,
Yeah.
correct?
So but are you showing that on the,
So
I
that's
saw
not,
the one back there.
that's not part of this application.
No, they
They're-
took a separate tree
Right, they
permit.
took a separate tree permit. So right now, whatever took place during that tree permit process is complete and decision already has been made. The removal of the tree or
They
the
didn't do it
replacement
in
of the
the-
tree is not part of this.
Of the site plan. They did it preliminary before they came to,
but wouldn't the site plan show the replacement?
Yeah, we're showing the replacement tree over here. We already agreed to install one after the construction because we don't want it to get damaged during construction.
Right, but
That's what we discussed in zoning.
Right, but the requirements and everything are part of the tree permit that has already been granted for this project.
Not part of this
necessarily-
application.
Right, not part of the site plan.
Right, so we forget.
The other times when you look at trees in terms of tree replacement, it's when there is technically that tree permit that they received previously. They didn't have to get, they could have just made that part of this site plan application. So the other times you look at the site, look at trees, is because in the new tree regulations, when a site plan is coming before this board and they're planning to remove trees, that's when you will review that. And they don't necessarily have to get another separate tree permit because it's being incorporated into the site plan. If somebody wants to remove a tree individually or a number of trees without not being associated with a site plan, they would go to the tree commission to do so.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, I would move we open the public hearing.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Is anyone here that would like to speak to this?
or online.
Nope.
We could close the public hearing.
Let's do
I
it.
move we close the public hearing.
Second?
All in
Aye.
favor? Okay.
Do you have a resolution?
I do have a resolution. Whereas the applicant is seeking site plan approval for alterations of an existing dwelling, including additions to the second floor on the rear, and installation of a sprinkler system. The property is located at 22 Irvington Street. Whereas the board conducted a duly noted public hearing on January 4th, it was concluded on January 4th, during which time all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity to be heard. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasonings set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions. Again, it refers to the approved plans, and then the applicant must pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board and review of this application, and the applicant must address to the full satisfaction of the village engineer all outstanding stormwater maintenance agreements, and engineering issues raised in the hearings and documents submitted to the board.
Good. Okay, I move that we approve that. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you, you too.
And do we have an AHRB?
Yes, we do.
Just, you're outta here, huh?
On that, again, it's just for the AHRB does the approval for the AHRB, and then it refers to the approved plans. You want to
Okay.
do a motion?
Motion?
I move.
Second?
I move. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now you're done.
Now you're done.
Okay.
Or at least can get started.
Yeah. Next item on our agenda, 45 Gould Avenue, public hearing for proposed addition at rear of existing residence. We're running out of people. Good night.
One online?
Anybody online for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. This is JB Hernandez. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, JB Hernandez. We did a presentation last month for an addition at the rear of 45 Gold, and there was no comment from the board. This is we're doing a 356 square foot addition at the rear of where an existing porch was. I can share the screen. This is so we're doing an addition at the rear of the property where there used to be an assistant deck. Now we convert that into master suite with a bathroom, walk-in closet. Again, we are matching the materials. It's one-story addition at the rear. And we added some pictures. So this is the area where the addition is occurring. This is the existing enclosed porch that we are extending and converting that into the master suite. Here is that as well. And there were some comments from engineer. I think we addressed most of them, and we're still waiting for the survey to be produced. Otherwise, I believe this was something that can go to open for public hearing today as well. And I don't know if the board had any more questions for us.
I open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have anybody online?
We've run out of public.
Loss of interest.
We have resolution 2. Ready?
We have to close the public
First, I
hearing.
move to close,
Yeah, sorry.
to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ready?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so the applicant is seeking site plan approval for additions to the existing house. The property is located at 45 Gould Avenue. Planning board conducted a public hearing on January 4th and concluded its public hearing on January 4th. Now further be it resolved, the planning board, Village of Dobbs Ferry, determines that based upon the findings of reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions. Again, it refers to the approved plans. And then it's the same conditions as previously, where the applicant must address the full satisfaction of the village engineer, any outstanding stormwater or engineering issues, and that the applicant must pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees in connection with the planning board review of this application.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Second?
No, what's second too?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Is there an AHRB component to
Yes,
this?
there is an AHRB. The AHRB also refers to the approved plans, and it's, you know, the approvals of AHRB for this project. So,
You so move?
So
Second.
move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
You're all set.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we now move to pre-submission conference for planning board and AHRB agenda. Number one, 327 Ashford Avenue, continuation of pre-submission conference for proposed removal of in-ground pool, new two-car garage. Application is adjourned until February 1. 107 Palisade Street, similar in its application is adjourned till February 1, 2024. And number three, 125 Bel Air, pre-submission conference for proposed exterior alterations, including a deck, stone retaining wall, stone terrace, expanded driveway.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you.
That's
Oh,
us. Let's see if I can. I always need help with it. I'll say that.
Slow.
Sorry, where is this? I have to get on.
Low.
That's the bit I always mess up with. I mean, that's it. It's right there. It was just showing up. There it is. Thanks. Oh, that's strange. It's coming up this way. Does it look like this? Have the. Okay. I'm getting half an image. You know why I'm getting half an image? Why I'm just not getting the full. Click the X. Okay. Click the other X. Is it portions of the image and not the. Well, I don't know why it's doing this, but anyway. So this is a project 111 Belair Street, and we were here not too long ago, or I guess in front of the ARB. We did a renovation to this existing house. It's a little frustrating why it's not the full image. Anyway, it's okay. So this is a house, 111 Belair. We did a renovation of the existing house, and we always intended to come back for phase two. So we're back to phase two, which is basically landscaping, redoing the existing retaining walls, putting in new retaining walls, redoing this lower deck, and putting in a stone terrace. This property is very neglected for many years. I mean, the retaining walls are collapsing, and there are many, many, many invasive Norway maples in the yard, which really need to go. And that's a bit of an issue as it relates to the planting plan, which there's this 50% rule, but it doesn't really make sense to try to achieve a 50% with all these invasive Norway maples. You know, we'd have to put in a huge amount of planning to be able to achieve that goal, but we have a very nice planting plan, I think, which is appropriate for the site. Golly, why is it doing this? No. Usually it doesn't do this. Let's see here.
So where's the new patio going?
Yeah, sorry. Had this problem before. We get a full. Well, let me start with this, just because this is in the sequence.
Okay.
This is the existing yard here. They're invasive maples. We're taking a lot of them down and putting in two retaining walls, which you can see on the site plan in a moment. We're also expanding this, redoing. I'm pointing to my screen instead of this screen. this collapsing retaining wall, we're redoing this. This is all collapsing, we're redoing this, and we're redoing the front entry. We're also taking the opportunity of widening the driveway to make it a little more functional. It's very difficult to get out of this driveway doing K-turns. You have to do multiple K-turns back and forth and so forth.
Now, are those dry stack walls right now?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a dangerous condition, I have to say, just through years of neglect.
And what kind of materials are you calling for to replace the walls with?
We're doing dry stack walls for the two low walls, and then we have a stone terrace that is north of the house that has a concrete, reinforced concrete retaining wall. Just it's related to the scale of the wall. You know, the smaller ones make sense as a dry stack wall, whereas the larger ones you want to do with the concrete retaining wall, reinforced concrete retaining wall. So this, again, this deck will be redone in the same fashion as this balcony was done, and it's going to be extended to the north. And then in this area here, there will be a stone terrace that we're filling this, and again, removing some of these invasive, well, these actually invasive Norway maple trees in order to achieve that. Again, this is the back. This will be totally redone, and we'll have
So at the bottom of those stairs is where the patio would go?
No, the patio will go level with the top of the stair, actually. So we're filling it here, and there's going to be a retaining wall here, and maybe I'll just scoot to the drawings.
How tall is that wall going to need to be? It's a pretty steep property.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's terraced too. I mean, there's a stepped portion of it as well. Sorry, I'm going through the neighborhood as well here. It's really frustrating. I can't get this to read properly. Anyway, you're probably familiar with this neighborhood, just going through the adjacent properties. That's the driveway. This is the driveway going down to 125. This is maddening. Oh, there is, right? Yeah. What the heck is it? Oh, yes, sorry. This isn't connected to the...
Yeah, I see the,
Oy.
Wow.
Can I get the mouse to that? Oh, here we go, sorry.
Yeah.
Please.
I'm not used to these.
Yeah. Here's the patio.
There we go, sorry.
Yeah,
There we
there's
go.
the patio.
the good old days. Overhead.
Okay, that's better. So, yeah, so here is these are the stone the dry set stone retaining walls at the front. They are within the right-of-way here. This happens to be a very deep right-of-way, which is a little unusual. So there's no avoiding doing construction within that right-of-way. You know, this is where the collapsing, this portion shows the collapsing retaining wall here, which is being removed. And this is the stone terrace in the back with steps going down to it, and there's again, a stepped retaining wall here to a lower wall and a higher wall that holds up the stone terrace. And of course, we're putting in the infiltrators that will take care of the drainage for the entire property, because there's a lot of erosion that is happening due to lack of, just like you mentioned on the other project, lack of proper stormwater management. So we're going to solve that problem with new infiltrators. And again, we're widening the driveway. Go to the other. This is sort of a detail showing the planting plan and lighting. So we're redoing the front walkway directly to the street, which is sort of a problem now. You can't really do that. It's very awkward. And we have from this walkway stairs coming down to the widened driveway. And again, these are the dry set walls here. And this is actually existing retaining wall. We're just rebuilding that. It's in a bit of disrepair. And this is, of course, the new stone terrace, and this is the new deck, which is going to be in keeping with the balcony that we did as part of the renovation of the house. Here you can see the section through the site. One of the comments was to show the property lines, which I should show, which I can show in the next iteration. So again, the drywall, dry set walls here, and the larger retaining wall holding the wall up for the walkway to the house and the stairs to the house. And this is looking back at the raised terrace, stone terrace in 2 levels, and there's this lower retaining wall here as well. And we're going to redo these stairs under the deck as part of this project as well.
Now, it looks like that wall is 12 feet or more high. Is that correct? I mean, the combination of the two?
Hold on. Damn it. The wrong way. This section here. Remember, to be honest.
L201.
Yeah, L201. So. Yeah, it's some detail. Damn it, why does it keep going the wrong way? Sorry, there's a dimension there.
Assuming that's correct, Anthony, I mean, what concerns, engineering concerns are involved with a wall that high?
Sorry?
For anything over 4 feet,
Yeah.
we'd, ask for engineering calculations and design.
Yeah, it's 10 feet. I mean, we're doing walls like that at the project just up the street, so that's sort of similar engineering and so forth, with plenty of rebar and footing and so forth, so that's all engineered.
Yeah, in terms of the walls, I think this wall is within the property. There are walls within the right-of-way. Those might be the dry stack walls.
Yes.
They may be interacting with the road loading, being in the right-of-way. Even if they're under 4 feet, we'd want to see that that's engineered and designed, not just a typical dry stack detail, with geotechnical investigation as well. I'm not saying you have to run out today and do that, but that would be required, especially that if it's in, it's going to be agreed that it's going to be within the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Now, the right-of-way work is going to require an agreement with the Board of Trustees?
We have to go to the BOT, that's my understanding because of it, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any issue with them. We're not excavating down, we're actually adding to the grade because of the steep drop-off, so I don't see any issue with that, but certainly we'll look into that.
Right, and this application is before, while it's a pre-submission conference, the plan is once this board feels comfortable with the site plan, then this will go over to the village board for their review, so that.
Only for the right-of-way issue.
Yes, for the right-of-way issue, and then it would come back here for final site plan approval.
So is the right-of-way line, am I seeing the right line in the site plan?
Yeah.
I think it's to encompass
like
actually
really
both tiers of the wall.
Yeah, it's quite far in.
And even some of the expanded driveway is.
The village should pay for these walls.
It's a peculiarity of this area. It's kind of skewed. If you look at the setback on the other side of the road, it's just, and actually as you go down Colonial, it comes to the curb and then it cuts back in. It's just, it's all over the place.
I mean, what you're going to have in the right-of-way here is the 2-tiered walls, parts of the steps, parts of the driveway that are expanded as well are within the right-of-way. So all that, again, let's go to the board has to agree. There'd have to be some kind of maintenance agreement, licensing agreement set up so that they'd be responsible, obviously, for me. But like I said, anything in the right-of-way, we'd be sure to get a fully engineered design.
So what can we do at this point to expedite the Board of Trustees review? Like, we'll go through our regular approval process, and then it just goes to them
Yeah, I
for a
think
different additional.
in terms of layout and site, you should review that. I
Okay.
mean,
They could go at the same time, too. If you're happy with the plan,
Yeah,
he could
I like
start.
it.
We just wanted to make sure you guys were good with it.
Yeah.
Before they had a licensing agreement with the BOT.
I have no reason to believe you can't engineer these walls. It's just we'll make those conditions that we'd want to make sure that happens, you know.
Okay.
I mean,
And the wall's pretty high, I think. Can you explain the screening foliage that's going to make it
oh, actually I have,
less imposing?
yeah, we're gonna have some nice planting everywhere. I
I mean, this is sort of a example, and not going to be exactly like that, of the dry stack walls. It's just, it's not this, a rendering of this project, but, and then we have the planting, I've forgotten the name of this plant.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the 10-foot sections.
Yeah, no, we're going to have the,
And speaking of planting, would you like this application to be also referred over to the your landscape consultant?
Well, there's the trees issue.
Right.
And I'm a little sympathetic to having too many trees on your property.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, how do we, for him to have a property that's completely in shade because there's so many trees on it.
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Conforming to the common, tree replacement scenario doesn't really make sense to me.
Right, so I don't know if you can waive that. If the applicant can't provide the trees in replacement, they have to pay the tree fee.
Right, they'd pay in lieu of planting.
So the tree commission can't waive it?
That doesn't make sense. I mean,
So this is, well, so the regulations right now, the regulations right now in the zoning, as they are, that the tree commission isn't, that we're responsible for this, this would be you for a site plan. And the requirements are that they're supposed to provide the trees on site. If they can't provide the trees on site, then they would pay.
So you'd rather have someone keep invasive Norway maples because they don't want to pay the fee? I mean, that just makes no sense.
Well,
I know it's not your, I apologize, I know it's set by somebody else, but it's not rational.
Right,
It's
and
just not rational.
Or
Clearly,
there's
I
no
don't know
clause for
anyone who would
planting
agree with
them
that.
somewhere else, like a park or someplace.
Well, that's why you'd pay into the fund, and then the village would pick where,
I see. That's the
Well, I don't
mechanism.
know what
to
the
make
fee
that
is,
happen.
but really you should be commended for removing Norway maples and not punished. I mean, that's a little ridiculous. I mean, you gotta rethink this.
All those leaves end up on my lawn anyway.
Yeah, they're, well, about, in fact, I remember
You're gonna have to
another meeting
recuse
where
yourself.
I think I mentioned the Norway maples, and it said, you advised that they should not be part of that formula because they're invasive species, and nobody
think there
listened.
Well, I agree with you, and I recommend going in front of the Board of Trustees and making that argument.
I will make that argument.
Well, we're changing the codes.
Because you want to
It doesn't
incentivize people
make
to
any
remove
sense.
invasive
No, it
species,
doesn't.
right? And you're not doing that, you're doing the opposite, so it just doesn't make sense. So anyway, we have some beautiful dogwoods going in, 2 dogwoods and a Japanese maple. The lighting is all compliant with the village code. These are the same lighting we've used on other projects in Dobbs Ferry. There's no off lighting, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and we have extensive planting in all the terracing, junipers and boxwoods and, what is this one here? This tree, this bush, it's very common, I just can't, I'm drawing a blank, but it's very nice.
It's Pyrus
It has a little
japonica.
more leafy look than the boxwoods, and that's what we'd have in front of you
Pyrus
to break up the terracing you
The
asked
deer
about,
don't
the stone wall.
Really?
Yeah.
Skip laurel.
Oh, it's a skip laurel? Okay.
This laurels. We'll be breaking up that mass that you talked about at the bottom.
Really? The deer don't eat them?
Pyrus japonica.
How come?
I don't know.
Well, I know they don't eat daffodils because they're in the onion family.
They don't eat, skip laurels. Yeah, they're all deer-proof, which is important, as you know.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, they're pretty aggressive around there.
plenty of those guys around.
All right.
And is that a native species?
I think skip laurel use a lot. I think it is, isn't it? I mean, it's never been raised as a problem. None of them are invasive species, for sure, that's for sure.
We ready for a public hearing at the next?
So, I mean, if you have a public hearing, there's no guarantee that they'll be finished with the village board at that point, but you could call for a public hearing.
So
But
normally,
why- But wait, we can approve this. Don't we go through our regular?
I would recommend not approving it until you know for sure that they're gonna get the license
Okay,
agreement.
all right.
do we need to pass
Right,
along
Dan?
this is pre-sub.
The tree issue,
Do you need,
the DOT would have to rule on the tree issue.
unless they
that we
wait,
were
I
talking
guess they
about
can wait.
Before you approve it, right?
But we probably shouldn't have a public hearing until the BOT has their say, because if they want changes,
Okay.
you end up doing
Right,
it
if
twice.
they don't want to give them
If they
their
say no.
licensing agreement.
All right, but do we send be a letter to the BOT saying, you know, we like this design and we recommend you
I think
take the
Yeah.
next steps?
Yeah,
Do that.
that way you're happy with the
Right, let
rules.
them know that we don't have any issues with
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Right.
that would be good.
Yeah.
It would be appreciated.
Who would generate that?
Would you like me to put together a memo and I'll send it out to the board, you can review and then.
Thank you.
Do we need a vote to get you to do that?
Well, it's not a vote per se, just a consensus
Yeah.
to send it. Yeah.
Okay.
I vote that we do that.
I second it.
I agree.
What he said.
Not she?
And I suggest before you go to the board, I know you're gonna talk to them about the trees, but just take a look at because some of the trees that you look like you're gonna take down might not fall under the requirements of the tree, because there's a specific definition for trees. And with the DBH of like, I think it's 8 inches.
8 inches.
Or more.
Right.
So
They're all-
just take a look at what you're proposing to take down and what you're proposing to replace. And then you can see if there's a difference between what's, you know, still missing from that, like I'm gonna say, planting gap.
And what if the
We're gonna
trees
have-
are on the right of
No
way?
question, there's a gap in between, in that 50% rule. But you're right, I should do the formulation, I should do the math on that. Yeah, that makes sense.
So if the trees are in the right of way, can the village say this is an invasive species and you don't have to, you're not responsible
Well, so
for
those
it?
are gonna be trees that are gonna be having, the village board would have to approve those trees coming down.
Because they would have.
So I don't know if they would count towards that. We'd have to take a look at all that,
Oh,
you
that's
know.
I'm not sure if that counts towards the replacements also in the right of way.
Right.
Okay. Because it's in the village interest to eliminate Norway maples, so
In
if
the
it's in their right of way,
Yes.
then maybe that,
Will they pay to remove them?
That's what I'm asking.
probably only if they're
Can
dangerous.
ask.
Your tax dollars at work.
Yes. Well, I should ask, I mean, they are often done, but usually when they're dying or something, not just.
Okay.
Okay.
The village has no responsibility.
In this regard.
We
In
done?
this
So you're clear about how to go forward?
Well, I'll sort of wait for Dan's, but we're getting on the BOT and I have to submit 5 more copies or whatever, so we'll do all that.
Okay. Good. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So this just continues.
The next item on our agenda, continuation of review of proposed zoning text amendment to authorize flexibility in the assessment of fees in connection with special permits and building permits
Oh, don't send it back.
for accessory dwelling units.
It's just a waste of.
Really?
Sarah.
Yeah, no, Rob and I kind of have slightly diverging,
Yeah.
Well,
If you don't need
I'm
it.
still not,
Finding now.
I think,
yeah, why don't you go ahead
no,
and explain, Valerie?
no, I was gonna say, I think I'm gonna pass this over to Dan Posen. We're talking about the ADU fees. And you wanna talk a little bit about the
Yeah,
status?
you know, I know that Lori Lee is working with the Board of Trustees on the various zoning amendments, but she's also indicated that she's gonna suggest that they hold off on doing anything with the ADU fees until we can
Finish her.
finalize a solution.
I mean, yeah, and, let me just explain what the issue is, because there are kind of two issues. One issue is whether or not there's a precedent for waiving recreation fees, and there is. That's established. The question that we're trying to, and I actually have a call into Tiffany Zezuela at the Baseline to get a kind of neutral academic opinion about this. Lori Lee, and I don't want to say what Lori Lee's argument is, maybe, I don't know if Dan does either, there's this notion that somehow we can't just outright waive the fee for the ADU without it somehow being potentially discriminatory in some way against, I don't quite understand what her argument is, and I was going to try to reach out to her before tonight and was not successful, but I did reach out to Tiffany, and Tiffany called me back, but like literally right before the meeting. So I want to get, to find out how it is that the other villages are waiving fees, you know, not having the fee, not simply waiving it, but not even having it. So that's the research that, and I apologize because I feel like we should have had it done by now, but with the holidays and everything else, it was hard to get to the people that can help us answer this question.
Okay, so,
Let's put it off a little longer, let people do some research.
Yeah, although I'm anxious to put it to bed too.
like him.
Yeah, most of me, but I mean, I want to talk to Lori Lee directly and find out exactly what the issue is and see if I can get another opinion. I'm not trying to, I don't want to box her into a corner either.
You're late.
So,
Okay, well, thank you for doing the research.
yeah, no. I apologize for not getting it together. This should be done with. But the other thing was, what about the steep slopes?
Right, so
Okay.
that's the last item on your agenda. So I think the last meeting, the board wanted, my takeaway from the last meeting was that the board decided to continue the conversation, but was looking for potentially tightening the language a little bit and making it clear, a little bit more black and white as to what can be done and what can't be done on steep slopes, or that it's clear that, development on steep slopes is discouraged. I also received a little bit of feedback from that, from like the ZBA. So what is coming out this week, and so there is a workshop on January 9th, and there are revisions to the steep slopes regulations, which basically tighten it even more in terms of their regulations, and that you're trying to not have development on those steep slopes. So, but I still wanted to, take any additional comments from this board at this point in time. The village board wanted to keep moving forward as much as possible and to take a look at, some of the amendments. So there will be another round of zoning amendments going to the board this week. And most of them are ones that you've already seen, and just tweaking from prior conversations with them, as well as prior conversations with this board and the ZBA.
Okay.
So I think this board's position is, correct me if I'm wrong, that, steep slopes don't necessarily have to be regulated by net lot area. I know the zoning board has a differing opinion, and that's ultimately going to be a discussion at the village board level as to which way they want to go, or if they want to incorporate both aspects into zoning.
Okay.
Well, I know Michael's concern last month was, he really felt it was a stormwater management issue, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, I think his position is that you can regulate steep slopes without having to deal with the net lot, without having to apply net lot area, which he is correct, you can. And so, so right now in front of the board next week, we'll have basically, they're going to have the original local law, which had the net lot area being defined, for both impervious coverage and just for their reference. And then they'll have the steep slopes regulations, which basically you have in front of you. But what I did do for this next round was I pulled everything out so that it's specifically for steep slopes. And there's two different categories, one from 15 to 25%, and then 15 to 35%, and then 35% or greater. And it's clear that 35% or greater, you really don't want to have development on. And then the other category will have, basically is discouraging development on those steep slopes, but it does allow for leeway for the planning board to make decisions to allow for development of steep slopes if it protects other natural resources, or if, the applicant's not able to have reasonable use of their property.
Right. The argument being that so much of the village is
right
like that. Yeah.
I think the difficulty is exactly that. I sent the village board a steep slopes map, and it's basically the whole the village is steep slopes of some sort. So
Remind me about setbacks. Are they calculated based on a horizontal plane?
Yes.
Okay. Is that answered one of my questions? Yeah.
yes. So, but I'm happy to take any other comments or.
So this is
dog
going to be
park
discussed at,
On January 9th. And, you know,
and we
we're.
can
what
come.
time?
Yes, absolutely. It starts at 6:30. So it will, and I think the board was hoping that, you know, members from both the planning board and ZBA, or some members are able to attend.
Yeah, good.
To either listen in or weigh in on some of the discussion or answer any questions.
Right.
What
And
day?
and the packets will be out
The fourth,
tomorrow,
next
and you'll
third
get the
Tuesday.
new
The
revision.
3rd, did you say?
The 9th at 6:30.
And what's driving this incentive to change the steep slope?
I think the whole thing started because of the Zero North Mountain application in terms of the net lot area. And because the ZBA found that it was confusing on how to apply the net lot area, or whether the net lot area applies to impervious coverage and building coverage, that they recommended that the board take a look at the net lot area. When the village board was discussing the idea of applying net lot area, or specifically making it clear in the zoning that net lot area would apply to both impervious coverage and building coverage, the conversation or the issue was raised as to, well, if this is really supposed to protect steep slopes, instead of going through by net lot area, why don't we look at steep slopes regulations and what's actually in the code? And that's what we started doing. And there is some language